Hey guys, Kate here with Will Weeks, your source of weather across southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, and northeastern Oklahoma. So, kind of doing a little bit of a video over the entire kind of winter weather thread. Not necessarily so much going to focus on my forecast or anything like that. Just kind of want to give a general idea, overview of kind of what we're going to be seeing. So, taking a look at the map with the National Weather Service's current hazards across. So, right now, what we're looking at is there's a system that's up this way, kind of in that red cursor area. And what that's going to be doing is it's going to start kind of shifting down this way ever so slightly. And as that kind of comes in, that's where all these winter storm warnings that you're seeing in this pink color, and these winter storm watches / winter weather advisories that are, kind of strangled out and about as well. That's what the system's going to do. And as it kind of comes down this way, it's going to kind of slow back up. It's going to go over a very saturated Kentucky and Tennessee at the moment. So definitely quite a large event, especially across the plains and in the Ozarks. Definitely a decent sized storm for what we are used to in terms of winter weather. So if we take a minute here and kind of look at the winter storm outlook that's put out by the National Weather Service, the Weather Prediction Center, basically the Ozarks and, over into southeast Kansas and in northeastern Oklahoma are really the bullseye for the storm. So basically this is guidance that is kind of computer generated that basically tells us, what the probability of exceeding the criteria for a winter storm warning. So it's kind of what this is. And as you can see, all this wonderful purple here. And then if we go down here to the key, definitely 80% plus in terms of probability of exceeding winter storm warning criteria. So definitely those warnings are needed. And this does give us a fairly decent idea of what we're going to be seeing coming across the area over the next couple of days. So if we take a look here at the Winter Storm Severity Index that's also put out by the Weather Prediction Center with the National Weather Service, you can see that most of southern Missouri in general and northeastern Oklahoma are in major impacts. So most of that's going to be coming due to the rate or the amount of snowfall that we're going to be seeing, along with the potential for the gusty winds and drifting of that snow, making conditions almost near blizzard-like for parts of the system. So all that kind of compounds into making a major impacts type level event. And according to the key here, expect considerable disruptions to daily life, dangerous or impossible driving conditions, avoid travel if possible, widespread closures, and disruptions to infrastructure may occur. So this is for the next 3 days. So really includes this evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then kind of starting to get into Monday or into Thursday a little bit. So definitely looking at a very decent sized storm that's going to impact the area. One that we don't typically see in terms of the impacts that's possible from the storm. So as usual, kind of see how it goes and go from there. So kind of going to look at kind of what the future, radar-ish stuff looks like using the HRRR here, which is kind of a short range and fast updating type model. So it'll give us a fairly decent idea of timing and stuff like that. So this is the 00Z as any other thing than the 6 hour HER is like 18 hours in length. So due to the length of this nature, we need to use the 00Z to have enough length to be able to cover the entire event. So I'm going to kind of click through. I was really hoping that would work. Arrow right. It doesn't appear to be working. Okay, so we'll just click through it. So kind of getting the speed through here. If you guys are curious, the time is right here. So this is going to be 12 a.m. Tuesday. So this is whenever that winter storm warning will take effect for Southwest Missouri. So like I said, that right there is the time. That's kind of where that's kind of based off of. So I'm going to kind of push here till 3. So at 3 o'clock, what we're really starting to see is we're actually starting to see a couple, scattered showers down here into northeastern Oklahoma. So the HER has been kind of trending this over the last couple of runs, with a little bit more of a south initiation in terms of the snowfall. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out on. We'll have to see if NWS Tulsa decides to take that winter storm warning that was issued for Northwest Arkansas in northeastern Oklahoma and extend it, or make it start sooner, maybe 3 a.m. or something whenever that snow starts falling, depending on, what it's actually doing. If it's just going to be light snow from at 3 to 6 a.m. before that warning starts, they probably won't extend it. But if you get into heavier impacts, then definitely would be warranted to start that warning early. So that's 3 a.m. at the moment. We're starting to see a little bit of snow coming into, around the Bartlesville and other areas in northeastern Oklahoma. So as we kind of push to 4, you can start seeing kind of this band start moving from the north. It will be tracking kind of southward here. Okay. So this band is going to be kind of tracking a little bit southward, basically, and kind of start impacting the area relatively quickly in the morning. So right now this is 4 a.m., so we're 4 hours into our winter storm warning, and areas north of 44 will already probably start seeing accumulating rain, snowfall at this point. So the temperatures are going to be cold enough by that point that, it's going to be basically, as the snow falls, we're expecting that it'll start accumulating very quickly. So kind of a good representation of what we use in terms of meteorology to figure out, kind of where that line is what we call a 540 line. And if you look down here, down by Oswego, you can see this 540. So then up here we have 534, 528. So that 540 is generally where the dividing line or where the freezing line really is. So by this point, most of everything north of I-44 is below that freezing point, and it will likely start accumulating really quickly across those areas. So kind of push into now 6 a.m., starting to see people, starting to travel for work on those normal shifts, assuming that they aren't postponed or canceled. Start kind of seeing a little bit more widespread snowfall. Even seeing a little bit of looks like some wintry mix in northeastern Oklahoma, probably extending into southern Washington counties in northwest Arkansas. But overall, that, starting to see a little bit more widespread snowfall. At this point, it's really not anything major. It's still relatively light. But as we kind of continue on, we will start seeing a little bit more kind of coming. A couple spots where you can get a little bit of light freezing drizzle or some sleet amounts. Really not too concerned about that, though. I don't think it'll amount to much, as most places will be well below the freezing point. So kind of push ahead to 9 a.m. here. 9 a.m., pretty much widespread snowfall across the area for most people. And at this point, this is where those impacts are really going to start taking shape. On roadways is once the snowfall rate starts, coming down at faster than MoDOT or Arkansas DOT or Oklahoma DOT/Turnpike Authority can keep up with the roads, those impacts are really going to start happening. So think about where you're having to travel. If you have to travel, I highly do not recommend traveling. But if you're going to be on the side roads, just prepare for those to be in rougher shape, as states are going to be pushing their resources towards making sure that, I-49, I-44, and those bigger interstate roads are cleared for interstate travel. So we kind of push towards noon here. Heavier snowfall continues to impact the area. So fairly high rates of snowfall here. This is down here in southern McDonald County, which doesn't mean that this will be there, but that is ticking into these moderate amounts of snow, which is relatively high for what we're used to seeing in terms of snowfall rates. So once again, this is kind of just small guidance. This isn't a forecast. It just kind of gives us a good idea of kind of what we're seeing. So I'm going to push ahead till 3. As you can kind of tell, we're still seeing some fairly moderate snowfall falling across the area. And like I said, during, once we get to the 8 to 9 a.m. standpoint, after that, it's really going to start getting rougher from there on. Because once the snow starts falling, it has something to have a base on itself, because it'll start a little bit wetter, and then as it gets colder, it'll become more of a drier snow, and so it'll be more powdery, more blowing around type snow. And as that kind of builds on, it'll start packing on some roadways, causing them to be very slick. Depending on the temperature, could turn that into ice as well. But you're also going to be dealing with low visibility, as there's going to be some gusty winds with this. And you're also going to have to be watching for drifts on certain areas. There, one stretch of road might not have any snow on it, while another stretch it might be drifted up, 1 or 2 feet deep. So definitely other things to think about than just the straight up snow that's falling. The extreme cold is going to be playing a very large factor in all this. That is actually the main reason of why we are expecting so much snowfall. But as we continue on, push through the afternoon and now getting the early evening hours, 6 o'clock still showing relatively moderate snowfall falling across southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, and northeastern Oklahoma. Kind of push towards 9 o'clock, still falling. A little bit lighter, but it's still kind of falling. So at this point, this has basically been 12 consistent hours of moderate snowfall. So quite a bit of snowfall that is coming down across the area. So as we get towards midnight, that snowfall does look to start kind of pushing off to the east and southeast. But one thing I do want to note is these levels that we're starting to get across the area. So when we first started, we were looking at like 528 up here, up north of Joplin. But now we're down to 522. And as those levels kind of keep pushing south, that's going to bring in more and more colder air. So now that the snow is stopping, now we're going to be dealing with kind of what we're going to be calling our secondary threats, which is going to be the extreme cold. So once that snow stops, that secondary threat is going to turn into our primary threat. And that's going to be creating a very treacherous and hazardous next couple days for most people, as the snow's not really just going to melt away. So, and the issue we're going to be running into is, even if we do get some sunlight during the day hours, it's just going to refreeze right back up at night at ice. So it's definitely going to be treacherous, especially on those back roads that might not get as much attention to them. But so as we kind of push to 3 o'clock, most of it's gone out of the way. And by that point, we're 3 hours away from that winter storm warning expiring. So this is a relatively new tool that the NWS has put out here recently that is accessible. But it basically kind of combines all the NWS forecasts together in terms of snowfall and puts them all in one application, which is very easy to just kind of glance around at and get a good idea of what each office is expecting. So this orange color that you're kind of seeing, that's about 12 inches of snow is kind of what they're saying in terms of that. So, up towards Greene County, Dade, those counties, there are a little bit higher amounts. With the latest guidance, this could come south a little bit. We'll see how that works, how they work that in the forecast. There was some discussion from NWS Tulsa earlier today about the cold air arriving earlier than expected, which could increase the snowfall amounts. But we'll kind of see how that's handled over the next couple hours here. So, but basically, from, Greenfield, Springfield, and, Marshville, Lebanon, and Mountain Grove and Houston, seeing, 12 to 13 inches kind of across the area there. But if we get down to more to localize where we're at, click on Cassville here, we're seeing expected is around 10 inches, low end is 4, high end is 14. And looks like there's about an 81% chance of 6 inches or more, and a 65% chance of 8 inches. So if we go look at Monette, a little bit higher in terms of probability, not by much though. Low end is still around that 4 inches, still expecting about 10, and the high end is around 12. So I'm actually going to switch the entire map to what the potential of seeing 6 inches is. So this is basically the chance of seeing 6 inches or more of snowfall. And as you can see, a relatively deep blue kind of across the area. And so that deep blue kind of correlates to this 80% chance of exceeding 6 inches of snowfall. So now this area here, it's kind of just east of Springfield. That matches into that 90%, which is absolutely wild. But there's also a couple areas over here in southeast Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, that also have those amounts with it. But if we go look at 8 inches, probabilities do back off just a little bit, but still relatively high in terms of what we generally see here in southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, and northeastern Oklahoma. But we're still seeing those around that 60 to 70% chance for most of the area here. Once you get down in northwest Arkansas, it kind of does back off though, as those cold temperatures haven't been really expected to get that far south. But that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of what is possible in terms of snowfall amounts. I'm going to open up this exceedance table. It's kind of what they call it. It kind of gives you a quick glance at kind of what areas can see. So if you're around Joplin, looking around 10 inches at the moment. Springfield looks in around 12-ish. Down to Branson, looking around that 9-inch mark. Nevada, around the 10. Anderson, you're sitting around the 11-inch mark. If you go down to Neosho, around the 10-inch mark. Same with Monette, it's also sitting around that 10-inch mark. Cassville is also at the 10-inch. And as we kind of keep going down here, Lamar, you're sitting around the 11-inch. Nixa and Ozark around the 10 to 11-inch. And that's really most of the Texas areas I do cover. So definitely a good possibility of seeing 6 or more inches, and kind of a moderate possibility of seeing more than 8 inches. So most areas, like I said, are looking to be in that kind of that 9 to 10 inch or 9 to 11-inch range. If you're along the north of 60, you're really going to be more in that range of that 10 to 13-inch margins. So that's kind of what I put in the forecast for my personal one. But like I said, I kind of want to deal with more of the official graphics on this. Then it's less opinionated and more factual. That was so people will feel a little bit better about it. Other than that, guys, that's really all I have for this video. Hopefully it helps out a little bit. And if you guys liked it, please do consider liking the Facebook page and giving a thumbs up. So I do appreciate it, guys. Thank you for all the support you guys have given me. And stay safe, stay warm. I hope to see you guys again real soon.